Welcome to InformOverload, the show where we take the top trending topics on the internet and then make them more entertaining. I'm your host Johnny Rogers, aka the Bacon Overlord, and to never miss another exciting video, click that subscribe button and ring the bell to join our notification squad. Before we get started though, leave us a comment down below with who your favorite comedian is. Now, jokes to a comedian are held as this sacred thing. It's our art, and it takes a lot of work to perfect, and for working comics, it's the way that we feed ourselves. So when a fellow comedian gets found out for stealing material, they are immediately labeled a joke thief and often casted out from most clubs as a result. With that, let's jump right into the top 10 comedians caught stealing jokes. In at number 10, Conan O'Brien. It's important to note in this scenario that we're not implying Conan himself stole these jokes. With a show like Conan's, and all late night shows for that matter, they have a team of writers whose sole job is to write the monologue jokes about topics that day for Conan to deliver on his show. Robert Alex Caseberg made a solid career out of writing these late night monologue jokes for TV. The 60-year-old comedy writer has even sold his jokes to people like David Letterman and Jay Leno. On the evening of January 14th of 2015, Caseberg was watching the opening monologue of Conan on TBS when he noticed that one of his jokes had been stolen. The story about two passengers fighting on a Delta flight, with the punchline being, and somehow they spent the whole flight fighting over the armrest, was a punchline that was word for word what Caseberg had written on his blog earlier that day. In the weeks following, more jokes from his Twitter account were also stolen and used on TV. Shortly thereafter, it was announced that Conan had settled a lawsuit of $450,000 in damages with Robert. In at number 9, Whitney Cummings. For quite a while now, celebrity roasts have become a big Comedy Central event where comedians talk smack to each other and take celebrities just, down a peg. Although with so many of these roasts and alternating comedians, not too many people have noticed the same jokes being recycled. During the 2009 roast of Joan Rivers, comedian Whitney Cummings took a shot at the other comics by saying, "The only thing lower than Greg Giraldo's ticket sales is Mario Cantone's T-cell count." Great joke, however, just 5 months before this, Lisa Lampanelli used the same punchline during the Larry the Cable Guy roast. The targets' names were different, but structurally it's the exact same joke on the same network. In at number 8, Joan Rivers. Speaking of Joan Rivers, Joan was known for purchasing jokes in the past, but regardless is still a talented joke writer in her own right. That being said, this was very difficult to find out. During an interview in 1982 with Playboy magazine, George Carlin exposed Joan as a bit of a joke thief. He said he admired her very much and had been doing the joke she stole for her appearance on The Tonight Show for years. The joke goes, "When my mother was pregnant with me, she carried me very low. In fact, for the last few weeks, my feet were sticking out. However, she did tell me it came in handy on stairs." I just butchered that joke, but anyways, Joan would tell the same joke verbatim on television. Carlin didn't want to believe she would do such a thing and chalked it up to her hiring an extremely lazy ghostwriter, which is probably the case. In at number 7, Robin Williams. Another heartbreaking realization was finding out that Robin Williams had lifted a few jokes from other comedians. In the 2017 book The Improv and Oral History of the Comedy Club That Revolutionized Stand-Up, the authors quote comedians Richard Lewis and Robert Wool saying that Williams would often steal jokes, with Lewis adding that some comics hated him for it, but he wasn't one of them. During an interview back in 1992, Robin even admitted to taking a joke from a comedian, and he even paid them upon being confronted about it, which is sad to think about. I mean, how many other jokes did he take that comedians just didn't feel comfortable confronting him about? In at number 6, George Carlin. Yep, you heard that right. Even the most prolific comedian that has had a number of jokes stolen from him has also been guilty of stealing jokes. During his 1988 HBO special called What Am I Doing in New Jersey, George goes into a bit about how to talk to a cop. After pondering in the joke as to whether or not he pays the cop's salary, he drops the line during his act out, "You're a public servant, get me a glass of water." That same punchline to his act out was done during the debut episode of the Abbott and Costello show back in 1952. His intentions are obviously unknown, and he could have been doing it as almost a way to pay homage to the show that had influenced him early on. The unfortunate thing is that he lifted other jokes in that same special. A bit he did about telling someone to give you money instead if they offer to buy you a drink was a gag used in at least 2 Bowery Boys movies during the 1950s. In at number 5, Amy Schumer.
Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I like it when the guy pays for sex. I mean that.
I am a good person, I swear to you. Like, I'm very old school. I think the guy should always pay on the first date for sex. And
Fans of Schumer were baffled to discover that she had stolen jokes from stand-up comics Wendy Liebman, Kathleen Madigan, and Tammy Pescatelli. Pescatelli even used Twitter to complain about Amy stealing her jokes, which prompted Schumer to make a bold statement of saying that she'd take a polygraph test to prove that she didn't do it on purpose, something I believe she's never actually followed through on. Schumer was also accused of stealing jokes from the late great Patrice O'Neal. Check out Elephant in the Room if you haven't seen that. I mean, this would make sense considering that they both came up in New York City, so the idea that she had watched him on stage, it's kind of really likely that she did steal jokes from Patrice and all of the other female comedians that I had mentioned. In at number 4, Russell Peters. In a case of the pot calling the kettle black, Russell Peters came under fire for joke theft almost immediately following him accusing Trevor Noah of taking jokes. While on the Stuart Goldsmith podcast, British stand-up comedian Gina Yashir alleged that before Russell had become famous, he would do gigs in England and often with Gina. What she didn't realize was that Russell was taking her jokes back to Canada and using them on stage. One of the main jokes that he stole was even featured in his 2004 breakout performance on Comedy Now. The joke about his father mistaking the Jamaican slang punani for a fruit was Gina's. She even confronted Russell about this, and he admitted that he had lifted the material. He said that it was an accident, that he wouldn't use the joke ever again, even promising to pay Yashir, although while he makes millions of dollars off the back of her jokes, he still has yet to pay out anything. I think he stole someone's jokes and he bought them a Rolex. There you go, bro. In at number 3, Dane Cook.
I didn't think you did.
Dude, why would I steal 3 jokes from you when I have hours of material? Why? Why would I do that? Risk my reputation?
Because they were funny jokes.
In 2007, Radar had posted an article called Take the Funny and Run. The article called out multiple big-time comedians for the nefarious crime of joke thievery. Amongst those in that article was Dane Cook, whose career was at an all-time high. The article began the war between fans of Dane Cook and Louis C.K. 3 bits from Dane's 2005 album Retaliation were now at the center of a joke theft scandal, all of which seemed way too similar to jokes used in Louis' 2001 album called Live in Houston. Dane quickly went from a darling in the industry to becoming the most ostracized. During Louis' show on FX, he scripted a conversation with Dane about the stolen jokes in question. It was all scripted for the show, but it felt honest, and it also brought light to the word cryptomnesia, which is when a forgotten memory returns and you believe that it's something new and original, which really could have been the case for Dane. In at number 2, Carlos Mencia.
Think you steal jokes? You're probably like O.J. Simpson. You're probably running around thinking you didn't do it. I don't. You probably are. You're probably crazy. Are you?
Maybe I am.
What is it?
I don't know.
This comedian was once at the pinnacle of his career before Joe Rogan tore that to shreds with claims of joke theft live on stage at the Comedy Store. He was so well known for stealing jokes from comedians that they would even call him Carlos Mencia, which is just hilarious. On top of that, if he came into the room while a comic was on stage, their friends would give them a signal to let them know. He would routinely watch other comedians and write down their jokes, only to slightly adjust their premises to his own life. Although not everyone was on Joe's side, he was less popular than Mencia at the time, and his agent even dropped him after this confrontation. Although when you watch the jokes next to the ones that Mencia stole, it's clear that he did indeed take a lot of material from other comedians. Like a lot. Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, Milton Berle. Milton will forever be the comedian whose entire act was just a compilation of stolen material. For starters, let's begin with a famous Milton Berle quote, where he was commenting on a funny bit that he had heard. Milton said, "I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my pencil." Yeah, the pencil he used to jot down every great joke that he heard and use in his act. He never liked being called a joke thief though, and would often tell people that he was a repurposer, which actually earned him the nickname the Thief of Bad Gags. To really drive this accusation home, in Melvin Heltzer's book called Comedy Writing Secrets, he said one day Milton Berle and Henny Youngman were listening to Joey Bishop tell a particularly funny gag. Milton whispered, "Gee, I wish I said that," for which Henny replied, "Don't worry Milton, you will." Now with that, let's check out some of your comments from the video titled "Man Discovers He Was Kidnapped from Birth 55 Years Ago." Kirsten Ashley says, "Can we get an artist to make IO merchandise with Johnny as a bacon overlord and Charlotte as a potato? Please?" I've been saying we should do that for a long time, but for real, if you're an artist and you want to mock up some designs, just send them to me on Instagram. If we like one, then I'll see about using it as merch. I mean, by the fans, for the fans, right? Dr. Pepper says, "Not gonna lie, I thought Jared was taller than Johnny. Not gonna lie, I knew I didn't like Dr. Pepper for a reason." Amber Addison says, "I had no intentions of staying classy, but since you said it, what the heck?" Hey, that's a spirit. Joel Angel says, "I always thought Jared was taller than Johnny." What? I love that our height difference was what you guys noticed in that video. Come on guys, I'm taller and better looking. Sassy Frass says, "Stay classy totally works for you." Thanks Sassy Frass, stay sassy. Well, that was almost really hard to say. And that has been the top 10 comedians caught stealing jokes. Thank you for watching Inform Overload, and if you enjoyed this video, then show us some love here by tapping that like and subscribe button. Also, make sure you give us a follow on Instagram for tons of behind the scenes content. Links for that will be in the description below. Plus, while you're there, why don't you leave us a comment with your thoughts on this list, and for more videos like this one, all you gotta do is click that playlist when it pops up on the screen. From my name is Johnny Rogers. Until next time, stay classy.